Hello, everyone, and welcome to Australian Transformers Weekly. Legally obliged to tell you that we are considering changing the name to Transformers Bi-Monthly. We'll see how we go with that.
We're
We are
trying.
bringing you, we're trying. We're bringing you Transformers news from around the world and across Australia, including a lot of stuff that happened in the UK this week. It might be because I was recently there. This is episode 259. We are recording live on the 2nd of September. 2022. It has been a couple of months since the last record, so we might be a little bit rusty. You'll have to forgive us. In this week's episode, we will be discussing some toy reveals because there's been a lot of them. Like, there's been a lot of toy reveals since our last episode. We're not going to go through them all because everyone already knows what they are and everyone's already freaking out about some of them. There's a new cartoon show coming up. I don't know if we should say cartoon anymore, but anyway, there's a new TV show coming up, and there was a really interesting thing that I experienced in the UK at TFNation, a retelling of the movie that we did not get in 1986. So we're going to be talking about that and more coming up after this. G'day. That's greeting every single viewer individually there. That's an old fast forward joke, actually, isn't it? Welcome to the show. I'm Jason. Joining me from Max. You said to me earlier. Obviously, I'm in student accommodation, but like it's not actually obvious. But Max is joining us from an undisclosed location somewhere in the student accommodation. I'm going to say of Adelaide, but I don't actually know where you are.
I'm in your neck, and by your neck of the woods, I mean 5 hours away. I'm in Armidale now. So
You're in Armidale now. Do you mean you've moved? This is what happens when we don't do a show. This is what we do.
I know. We're sort of out of the loop.
So hang on. Do you live in New South Wales now?
Temporarily. I'm going back to SA on Wednesday.
Oh, right. So I'm just looking at the live viewer stats, and like I've just seen South Australia's just gone dark. So
yeah, I know.
Thanks a bunch.
Well, the one South Australian viewer was me. So
that was you with the YouTube video open up in the background. I see. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Look, it's so you're
I've become the very thing I swore to destroy. I'm living in New South Wales now.
I'm not sure. Did you swear to destroy me?
No,
I'm not sure. I don't know. And also,
it's just that general Eastern States apathy. I think we all secretly harbour.
I mean, let's not lie. It does go the other way as well. It's okay.
It does go.
Mark also asks, "Is Max your real name?" Or is Max your real name, or are you actually in witness protection, disguised as student accommodation?
No, Max is my real name.
Mark also says Mount Panorama is in New South Wales. Mate, are we just gonna play What's My Landmark now or something? But, and a good evening to Rob Franklin, also watching along in the group as well. So thank you, everyone. We do love live comments, and we're all very happy to play along, and everyone's happy to have the live podcast records back, I hope. So it's been, as I keep saying, it's been a while since it's been a while since we've been on. We have an item in the run sheet that says notable things that happened this week, or month. I think we've already talked about notable things that have happened. You've moved states. I've been overseas. I stopped off in Singapore for a few days. Did some Transformers shopping in Singapore, and then I went over to the UK for TFNation in the middle of August. Absolutely smashing fun experience. Just enjoyed it so much. It's the first live TFNation since 2019, so got to see all these people that I haven't seen in about 3 years, and many hugs were given and received, and thankfully COVID was not. I've seen a screenshot. Or I've seen a photo from one of the IDW guys there who posted a negative COVID result and said, "This is amazing considering how many people kissed me on the weekend." So yeah, that's
I did see a few photos of the event. It seemed very, very close.
It is. It is. I guess close is an interesting term, but like, everyone's it's a very close knit event, and like people did keep their distance from each other, like physical distancing because of the pandemic, obviously. But there's only so much you can do when you're in a confined location. Also, it's worth noting that the UK is currently going through an extreme summer. An extremely summer bout of weather. So, let me put up the screen share. I've got some photos, and so this photo. This is the dealer room at TFNation. It's just gone black, so that's great. There we go.
Done well.
Yeah, it's great. So this is the dealer room at TFNation. I think it's a ballroom at the Hilton Birmingham NEC, and so not gonna lie, this room was stinking hot. As the event staff were fond of saying, according to the Hilton staff, the air conditioning is on, but you can probably see from me in the foreground, like pretty warm, and pretty much not coping with the heat. Everyone's wearing quite cool clothing. And yeah, I think it was something like 36 degrees.
I guess it's still that thing of the buildings in the UK just aren't constructed for the kind of summers that we're getting now.
No, they're not.
It's just this uphill battle.
Yeah, that's the simple thing is that the air conditioning is not built for it. However, over in the distance on the wall, you can see a doorway that goes out to the hallway, and as soon as you exit the dealer room, the air conditioning hits you in the face, and you are like that. You're like that GIF of Nicolas Cage stepping off the plane for the first time in Con Air and feeling the cool air conditioned air on his face. Had an absolutely smashing time. I'm going to go through a couple of photos I got here. Was happily sat in the audience as they did a launch with the Royal Mail of their new Transformers stamps, which have come out yesterday in the UK. There's 8 sets of stamps. There's 8 stamps in the main set. There you can see Prime, Megatron, Bumblebee, Starscream, Grimlock, Soundwave, Arcee, and Shockwave. Said some of those in the wrong order. And the artwork is by longtime Marvel UK artist Andrew Wildman, who I got to meet for the very first time at this TFNation. Lovely chap. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. What do you say when you meet someone whose work you've admired for like over 20 years? It's you just have to say thank you. Like there's not much more you can say. So while the main product is these 8 stamps, there's other stamps. There's a set of Dinobots. There's gold ingots. There's large-scale prints. There's books with the Matrix cover. There's coins. There's metallic ingots and things like that. There's also a bit of artwork by Jeff Senior on the products as well. So yeah, it was pretty much fantastic. I didn't expect going to TFNation that the Royal Mail would be the thing that costs me the most money at TFNation, but there you go. I think I spent about £280 because I just decided I'm just going to get one of everything, and that one of everything, it adds up quite a lot. I will say, I will give a little funny story about the stamps. The gentleman on the right in this photo is from the Royal Mail, but he's also a Transformers fan and attends TFNation anyway, and he said that according to the process of creating new stamps for the Royal Mail, the process is that any new stamp is placed in front of the Queen and the Queen approves it, which means the Queen has officially signed off on stamps featuring our favourite transforming robots. And that's I think that's a nice. I think it's a nice little, it's a nice little thing to consider that the Queen has had to sign off on Transformers.
Something incredibly British about that.
It is. You're right.
Violently
Yes.
British.
Let's move on a little bit. These these guys went around the Twitter sphere in 2020. They were a lockdown project for a guy in the UK. They are cardboard transformers. What have we got? I'm going to say it's Blitzwing because the face on the one on the right. There's an IDW Rodimus and there's a Grimlock there, and they were created in 2020 as a lockdown project. They found their way into TFNation. They were always intended to turn up at TFNation, and what I didn't realize seeing them posted online is that they actually transform. So the guy who created these, they are made of like just brown cardboard. You can see some of the tape and marks holding them together around here, but they do transform into their alt modes. Quite an accomplishment.
And he did a couple of Twitter threads showing off the actual step-by-step transformation, and it's not, it's not like just lying it down and folding some bits in.
Yeah, no, that's how you do transforming cosplay.
Like it's like proper, high, like well-engineered stuff, and I'm, in something that's handmade of this scale, it's insane.
That's right. Yeah, so you can see here, like there's swivels in the elbows on Blitzwing and on Rodimus. In fact, most of them have sort of some swivels and stuff. The astonishing part of this was that they were offered for sale to me as well. I'm like, I'm going to think about how I could get this home, but I've got no idea. I don't. Think
with the Royal Mail, obviously.
Yeah, posted home with the Royal Mail. I got to say, actually, with the Royal Mail stuff, so it was launched in mid-August at TFNation, but officially released 1st of September yesterday. And I got to say, I received 5 separate emails from the Royal Mail advising me that different parts of my order have been shipped, and none of them have tracking, even though they're coming to Australia. So when these things turn up, it's just going to be a surprise. There's my £280 in the mail. So yeah, it's not terribly confidence inspiring, but we'll see how it goes. Ultimately, I should have just shipped them to the UK and picked them up when I go back at Christmas, but we'll see how we go. Let's move on from the. Wait, I did have to get a selfie with the Rodimus as well, and also just look at the quality of that face as well. Like that is extremely well made. Like he's captured the smirk on Rodimus's face. Everything's.
It's the fact that the three of them all have some distinct art styles.
That's right. Yeah.
It's seriously impressive. Like it's not just an engineering perspective, but there's clearly a huge amount of love put into these.
Yeah, very much. In all honesty, I really wish that I could have actually purchased one and come back with it. Like, I actually don't know if they were purchased, and to be perfectly honest, I'm kind of regretting not purchasing it because, like, I could definitely bundle that thing up and stick it in a box and ship it to my freight forwarder. Like, I'm kind of talking myself into it, but yeah, we'll see. Morgan Moroney says, Rodimus or you, Jace. I think he's referring to the comment about, look at that face. Like, of course I'm talking about the sculpture. I know I'm gorgeous. It's okay. Thank you.
He doesn't need reassuring.
No, I definitely don't. Some other things that happened at TFNation. I've got a few. Anytime I met someone, I grabbed a selfie with them as proof that I'd seen them. So we have the wonderful Maz 60 and Toybox Soapbox from the Triple Takeover podcast, which even though I host my own Transformers podcast, I will just tell you that you should be listening to that podcast. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's pretty much the only podcast that I listen to anymore because those guys pump out so much content that that's about the only thing that I have time to listen to. Next up, there were some panels. There's James Roberts and Jack Lawrence. James Roberts, obviously the author of More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light and several other IDW books, and Jack Lawrence on the left is the artist of note on Lost Light, the official series artist. They were both fantastic. This was a photo taken up from the back of the room on with the zoom on my camera.
A very tired looking James Roberts.
Yeah, I think he was actually just mid explanation for something. When I was there in 2019, I was a lot more intent on taking a lot of candid shots of people in panels and trying to sort of capture the feel of the actually being there. But this time, I just sort of I wanted to experience the panels and enjoy them, so I didn't really take too many photos. I figured a lot of other people will. Um, so yeah, there's a couple of Sharkticons won the cosplay contest, which I think is pretty well deserved. The uh, the Sharkticons were actually a rerun from the 2019 cosplay event, but they had greatly enhanced their costumes over the intervening 3 years, and well deserved their win. There's a wonderful amount of cosplay that went on. Haven't put too much of it out on social because I feel like the cosplay contest is one of those things where you should attend the convention to see it. But there's a bit out there. People videotaped the whole thing. I said videotaped. People recorded the whole thing and have put it up online. This is a bit of an example of what you see in the dealer room. This is Kapow Toys. They had the convention exclusive, as you can see, the MMC. I can't. What's it called?
Something Promenon.
Optus Promenon. I can't say Optus too many times, or else Singtel will come after me with their legal team. Optus Promenon, which is their Optus Pex. I think he's like War Within, or he's a Cybertronian mode Optimus Prime. This is the Shattered Glass version.
Yeah, it's the sort of chaos theory /
Yes,
I
you're right. It's
forget
one of the older Cybertronian modes from some of the earlier stories.
Yeah, it's sort of like the default Cybertronian Prime from IDW.
Yeah. Lovely figure. I've seen many photos. A lot of people really like this figure. Haven't taken mine out of the box yet, but in fact, I haven't opened most of the things from TFNation, but yeah, we'll get there. I got to hold an absolutely fantastic Optimus Primal sword. This is a 3D printed sword. It's amazing. So of course, like I had to hold it up and pretend that I have the power like that other franchise. Nick Roche, also very well regarded IDW author and artist. Lovely guy. Stopped for a chat as we were wandering around the dealer room. A similar photo for this one has already gone out thanks to Thew. Bunch of us went out and had a nice drink by the lake on the Saturday night, and
I've heard about that.
all fantastic folks. So yeah, really enjoyed it. I think I
heard there were many drinks by the lake.
There were many drinks by the lake, but when I went out there, it was getting pretty late, and I think we decided, because we had run out of alcohol, we basically went to the bar at the Hilton, grabbed a couple of drinks each, and then went out. And so, like, once we've drunk the drinks, it's time to go back and get more, and then we just decided to stay there. But yeah, it was lovely time hanging out by the lake. Most of the time at TFNation you hang out at the bar, but this was a little bit different, and it was also nice to sort of get out because the weather was so hot. Gavin Spence, who makes the Transformers reviews done quick, the TRDQ shorts on YouTube, which I was very happy to tell him is one of the only things that I subscribe to on YouTube, even though we're on YouTube, because it suits my attention span. I do not have the patience to watch 20-minute detailed, exhaustive breakdowns of figures. I've got about 2 minutes, and you got about 2 minutes to explain to me what the figure is, why you like it, show its alt mode, and then I'm done. So yeah, Gavin is lovely. Gavin also makes pins, which, as you might know, pins are something that is sort of close to my heart for a collector. So I will show you Gavin's pin later for this year. There's James Roberts himself there. And while I was chatting to James Roberts, Jack Lawrence ran over for a hug. And Jack Lawrence gives some of the best hugs that you can get at conventions. So if you do find yourself at a convention with Jack, do avail yourself of the hug service. Jim Sorensen, I say token American. There are a few Americans there. I think there were there were a couple of Americans and a couple of Australians there. So I think the Australians may have outnumbered the Americans, but we'll see. And there's Andrew Wildman. And as I said earlier, I wasn't quite sure what to say. And Mark did put the correct answer in the chat. He just said, "You say I love your work," and I do. So yeah, I was very happy to meet Andrew Wildman after all of these years. There's another. This one's the photo from the bar. I think this might have been the last. This might have been the last non-blurry photo I took from the bar before the amount of drinks that I took started making the photos very blurry for the rest of the night. And the man who knows everything about Transformers and is happy to ask people difficult questions about them, Chris McFeely. So yeah, wonderful to meet people. I've thrown this one in simply because this lady's name is Grace Murray, so she shares a surname with me, and she also wears an absolutely amazing Rodimus Prime jacket to the convention. And I had not seen her wandering around the convention, so when I grabbed her in the bar, I was just like, oh my god, we need to get a photo. So that was fantastic. And now, very briefly, I'm just gonna go very briefly and talk about this photo, which shows a familiar but different cast of Transformers the movie. Now, I don't know how much you've seen about this panel, Max. Do you know much about what we're going to talk about?
I've read as much as I can find out about this. I thought this was fascinating.
So
I'll let you take it away.
I'm only gonna very briefly go through it. Like there's enough information out there that people can go through it themselves. On the Saturday night at TFNation, Chris McFeely and Jim Sorensen took us through the contents without letting people have the script itself. Jim said that he had been cataloging things in Flint Dill's garage and found the original first draft for Transformers the movie. Now, this is the thing that had thought to be lost to time, and in actual fact, it was lost to Flint's garage, and so they were able to sort of get an agreement that, like, while they can't distribute the script, they can talk about what was in it, and so the main event for the Saturday night panel was born. And so what they did was they detailed what they were going to talk about and talk about the quality of the script and the events that happened within it. And they were going to get some of the community artists that they often get to illustrate things that happen at these panels, like the Transformers Animated Season 4 from a few years ago. And they were going to get some of the artists from the community to illustrate things and they've done it in such a way that it looks like it's a still from a movie that never was. And so there's a few big differences between the first draft of Transformers the movie and what we eventually got as the animated movie in 1986. And some of the big differences are that the bad guy is not Unicron. The bad guy is a being called the Entity, who inhabits a giant planet, and one of the planet's moons is known as Unicron. But Unicron himself does not sort of make his presence felt. By and large, the beats of the movie, you can see the DNA from the first draft making it through into the final product, but things happen very differently. It's not the year 2005. There is no Autobot City. The big battle that starts the movie is actually just a battle at a steel mill, with the usual thing of the Decepticons trying to steal energy from the steel mill.
Notably, they don't kill off the entire cast.
Absolutely. They do not kill off the entire cast. However, there's a bunch of things that happened in the script that we know were changed in future drafts. So in the battle at the steel mill, Prime and Megatron do fight each other to the death. Prime does pass away on his medical bed in the Autobot base, as we're familiar with. Megatron makes it back to Cybertron, but then passes away, and his spirit leaves his body. And before they could capture his spirit, it drifts off into deep space, where he meets the Entity, who promises him ultimate power, etc., if he serves him and reincarnates him as Galvatron. Optimus Prime passes his matrix, and I say his matrix because according to this draft of the movie, all Transformers have a matrix, and their matrix is a tiny version of themselves. So when Optimus Prime dies, his matrix, which is a tiny version of Optimus Prime in a green jar, gets passed to Magnus, who you can see it on this screen here. And when Magnus gets Optimus Prime's matrix, he then becomes Ultra Magnus. So the long story short is the entity creates Galvatron. Galvatron goes back to Cybertron, converts all the remaining Decepticons to serve the entity, and then they come back to Earth to pillage Earth for all of the Earth's energy and do terrible things. And there's a large battle, and in the final battle, Daniel, who is not Spike's son in this draft of the movie, but Daniel greatly assists in defeating Galvatron, and Prime's Matrix chooses Daniel to incorporate with and become potentially the new leader of the Autobots, I guess. And so while we might say the Matrix chose Hot Rod, originally the Matrix chose Daniel. A couple of notable things in this first draft of the movie. Galvatron kills everyone. All of the new characters get killed off at Galvatron's hand, which we know from future drafts of the movie resulted in a note from Hasbro saying you can't do this. You can't kill all of these new characters because we need to sell toys of them. Here is a list of characters that you can kill, and that basically became the kill list that made it into the '86 movie. So everyone who was upset about Prowl and everyone dying, Starscream does not die in the movie, but as they were fond of saying on stage, he does get his ass kicked no less than 4 times. So that's always pretty fun. And there was one guy at TFNation who, just by random chance, I had a bunch of things to give away, and I randomly gave a Prowl coin to this guy, and he's just exclaimed, "Oh my god, Prowl is my favorite character. This is amazing!" And as they said,
I didn't realize the person like that existed.
Some people love the guy, and so when they said on stage, Prowl doesn't die in this draft of the movie, one person just went, "Yes!" And I'm pretty sure that it was the same guy.
Is he a cop?
Sorry,
I said, is he a cop?
He might be a cop. I don't know. As they say over there, policeman. But yes, we'll see. Or law enforcement officer.
Everyone's got their favorite.
Yeah, everyone does. There's a few differences you can see in the movie in the still here. The figure on the left next to Hot Rod is not Cup, but is a different character. Cup sort of came about in later drafts, and you can also see some of the designs in this artwork are based on some of the original designs that made it out around the time, in the 80s or so, and some of the notes that have been found from Flo Derry's work. So Magnus here looks very much like Orion Pax, because they went with a different design for Ultra Magnus, and as the guy said on the stage in the panel, Flo Derry does not like to waste designs, so that design became Orion Pax. So yeah. There are longer and better summaries of the panel that you can read to find out all about the Transformers, the movie that never was. There's a bunch of people who've started to create figures based on some of the designs that were seen and some of the things that we know. There was a triple changing train that was very much the fan favorite. His name's Rails. His robot, what passes for a robot mode, is actually a giant snake, and he turned the tide of the battle at the steel mill. So people very much want a Rails figure, and I think there's several customizers and 3D printers who have decided to go for it. A couple of things going. There's a couple of comments say that a comic book adaptation would be cool. That would be an interesting one. A few people have actually suggested that this might be an interesting take for whoever picks up the comics license at the end of the year when it leaves IDW. Might be an interesting idea for them to sort of stamp their own stamp of creativity on the franchise by trying to adapt to this. Could be interesting. Yeah. And there were a bunch of comments in there. Mark says head in the jar, very Futurama. Yeah, I actually had one of those little masterpiece Optimus Prime giveaway figures there on the Sunday. I was like, does anyone have a jar? Like we can make a Prime Matrix with this figure. Sadly, no one did, so I ended up just giving it to someone. But anyway, that was the TFNation experience for me, and that was probably the most notable panel. That panel has created ripples that have been felt throughout the Transformers fandom in the last few weeks, and it's been, it was just like being there for the Transformers animated season 4 script reading. Like, it's been wonderful to be able to say, I was sitting in the room and I experienced it firsthand. My poor 13-year-old nephew sat through about a quarter of the panel and then just went, I don't know what this is about, and then left and went to go and went to go do something else. I think he went to go and play Switch because he hasn't seen the original Transformers the movie, so he had absolutely no point of reference for what they were talking about. Unlike the rest of us who like have it indelibly etched into our memories. So yeah, with that all said and done, that's my wrap up of notable things that happened this week or month. There's a lot of stuff with going on with TFNation, and I think we should start talking about a little bit of news. What do you think, Max?
Can't hurt.
Can't hurt. I mean, it could. It depends how heavy the news is, and
I guess we do have Revenge of the Fallen toys to talk about. So
yeah. Yeah, there are some Studio Series figures to talk about. Switching gears to talk about news. We like to open the news with a bit of an update on local releases. I'm not going to talk about what's on screen just yet. Legacy Wave 2. Legacy Wave 2 you'll find sort of spread across JB Hi-Fi and EB Games. I think you'll find G-Axis and Soundwave at EB Games. And
do we know if that's hitting regular retail? Like, you can have some targets?
It's an interesting question. So you'll find the deluxes at JB Hi-Fi, and you can also find Blitzwing at JB Hi-Fi. What I think is going to end up happening here, I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast before or not. What I think is happening here is that you're going to start seeing a bit of a stratification of retail in Australia. And so if you want this stuff as soon as it's released, you're going to have to go to JB Hi-Fi or EB Games or somewhere else that we would consider more of a specialty store. And like you said, you said mass retail then as well. And so like mass retail would be like the big department stores like Myer, Kmart, Big W and Target. I think that really covers. And
yeah. I guess I'm sorry.
Well, I think what you're going to find is that if you want the figures as soon as they're released, you're going to have to go to JB or EB and pay a little bit of a premium on them to make sure that you get them when they first come out. And then if you wait a month or two, they might come to one of the mass retailers as well. But I think we've seen JB Hi-Fi has been really good at getting these figures on shelves really quickly. They actually got the G.I. Joe His Tank Megatron out on shelves at the start of August, and I think that was before it was released for most of the other parts of the planet. They also currently have Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus on their store shelves, and he hasn't even been released. Hasn't even been released around Asia. He's come out in the UK, so JB's doing a pretty good job of keeping up to pace with current retail releases. It's going to be interesting to see how well they keep that up long term, because they're already starting to get a few things shelf forming there. Like they've still got the golden disc sets hanging around, but I think the regular release waves are kind of moving in and out of their stores pretty well. And I think as people realize that they're a reliable source to get Transformers, they're going to, they're going to be higher up on people's lists of places to go. At the moment, it still feels like a bit of a novelty going into a JB Hi-Fi store and coming out with a Transformer.
Well, yeah, and even if you look at the EB Games example, right? Like Zing it was only a few years ago that became a major thing around the country where you'd actually have a place to buy this sort of stuff. So it's it is actually quite a recent phenomenon that we have, like collectors stuff at chains across the entire country. We just haven't really had that before. So
that's right. I think with
it doesn't
EB,
look like it's going anywhere anytime soon. Is the other thing. So if these things do tend to congregate towards JB and EB and whatever else might fill that void, then it's probably not going to be a terrible thing.
So we should be clear that when we say EB, we also do mean Zing, because they are the same company, and in fact, most of the time now they are the same. They are the same stores. So what I was going to say with EB, this sort of started a few years ago with the HasLab Unicron, and that was sort of like, wow, okay, that's a Transformer that's turned up at EB Games, and then they suddenly started bringing in other things like Gen Selects, and the Gen Selects line had not really found much of a presence on Australian shelves, and so it was really cool to see that start turning up. And so now we're at the point where EB Games gets regular wave releases. They do price them pretty high though, so I think I've seen deluxes at EB Games go for $45, and this is a size class that a couple of, like the generally accepted price point for them is $30. That's been the price at Kmart for years. Kmart's put their price up to $35 now. There's been multiple price rises over the years that Kmart hasn't really passed on, so an extra $5 for a deluxe at Kmart is still pretty good and affordable. They have also held down the price of Voyagers, and there's a cracking good price on the Velocitron leader that we'll get to shortly. But I do think, I think, like I said, if you're worried about getting this stuff and you want it first and you want it sooner than everyone else, and sometimes sooner than everyone else on the planet, like you're going to end up going to JB or EB and pre-ordering stuff. Now, JB doesn't really have much of a pre-order for Transformers going, but I think they're going to start doing that. And EB Games is well known to offer pre-orders for figures that are upcoming. Having said that, let's talk about the items on screen at the moment. So we're looking at the Kmart Velocitron listings. Now, as promised a while ago, Velocitron did hit Kmart in August, and it's causing quite some consternation to people because, as we know, Kmart will not offer specific orders of specific items online. You end up picking an assorted piece and hoping that you get what you want. So there are 5 deluxes in the Velocitron line. So if you order one piece, then you have a 1 in 5 chance of getting the figure that you want. If indeed there's one figure that you want out of it. Voyagers, there's 2 of them, so you got a 50-50 chance. But at least with leaders, there's only 1. So if you do want to get Leader Scourge, you're quite safe to order it online. Now, the controversy that we've been seeing is that the most popular figure of the line, which did catch Hasbro by surprise, and we've spoken with Hasbro, it's not hearsay, they really were caught off guard by the popularity of Cosmos. I'm gonna turn the screen share off there.
The other thing with the popularity of Cosmos is that when they were talking about it on one of the live streams, they specifically stated, we figured out we were going to originally retool it out of Origin Bumblebee, and then it became a thing of they realized that they could technically afford to do it just with a small amount of steel molding than they necessarily need with that budget. So it was clear from the outset that Cosmos was a bit of an afterthought. Like, it's not, he wasn't high on the list of priorities at all.
That's right. So Cosmos has turned out an absolutely fantastic figure. He's very well regarded.
He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
You've got him there too. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we're being very cruel showing these on the show. But...
No. Look. as you said, Cosmos was originally not going to be a major focus of the line. He was going to be a retool. They didn't expect him to be very popular, and so they gave him a 1 in 8 case assortment. And so the fact that I'll put the screen share back up. So the fact of the matter is that with five figures in the line, and one of them is in fact Kmart's only got 3 showing up there, but with five deluxe figures in the line, something's gonna lose out in a case assortment of 8 pieces. So like you'll have 5 pieces, and then there's 3 that'll be duplicates. So there's 2 pieces that miss out. And in the case of the Velocitron wave, it's Cosmos. Originally was going to be a retool, so they didn't a retool of another figure. They didn't expect him to be very popular. And Clampdown is also a retool of the Siege Lamborghini mold. It's been seen many times before. They also didn't expect that to be very popular. Clampdown doesn't seem to be as in demand as Cosmos, but Cosmos is definitely causing quite a lot of angst for people.
Yeah, I think that sort of just comes down to Cosmos is an established character. Clampdown has only ever really existed as a repaint.
Yeah, so, I think that's very true. Yeah,
and it is one of the more, I guess, beloved recurring repaints. Like, I don't know if you're going to find many people who are particularly excited about the latest Burnout, right? But it is, a lot. Clampdown does seem to be a bit more of a demand by scarcity rather than demand by a particular attachment.
So Clampdown is popular with people who want to complete their Lamborghini set, right? So like you'll have Sideswipe, Red Alerts, Deep Cover, Tiger Track. Like there's an increasing number of Lambros that come out regularly now, and so Clampdown is a figure that I don't think they've actually done as a chug release before. Like they had a masterpiece figure a few years ago as a retool of the Sideswipe mold. And
it's literally just the hobby and the masterpiece.
Yeah, and so he's there. If you're looking at the 5 pixels on the left of the screen, I'm holding him up there. But I've been fond of the Siege Lambo mold, the Cybertronian Sideswipe for a really long time. I was really happy when they made the Earth mode version of it in Kingdom as well. So yeah, he's been fantastic. But yeah, Clampdown is there for people who want to complete their sets, but Cosmos has taken people by surprise. People will say that Hasbro should have anticipated the demand for him, but the fact of the matter is that the last time they did a Cosmos, he shell formed, and that was the Titans Return. That was the Titans Return figure, which was a retool or a repaint anyway.
It's a repaint.
Thanks, Google.
Hey,
Google, stop before it plays anything.
I guess the thing with the Titans Return one is that shell formed quite heavily, but it shell formed quite heavily after it's still going.
Yeah, she's still talking. Yeah,
it shell formed quite heavily after the Thrilling 30 version.
That's true.
Which which was I remember that thing going for like $50 on the aftermarket back when it released. And granted that was
really
that. That may have also been a product of scarcity in a way, because it's easy to forget now, but a lot of Thrilling 30 wasn't actually released in Australia at all.
So that can definitely be a cause for some of that.
But that old Legends was a real fan favorite, and so they put out a Titans Return version, and I feel like it got a bit of praise at the time for the fact that they did it, and obviously it didn't go too well.
Yeah, I guess the thing is that at the time, like anyone who wanted the Cosmos had him, and I think they're in danger of that now. Like I've got a bunch that are coming in on import for members who need them, and so like we know Hasbro has said that this has caught them off guard. So like they're gonna bring him around and repack him in something else in the future. There is a peculiar thing that happens with some of these molds is that. And we know this from some discussions that Mark Maher has had with people on Instagram, which is that the items that go into the Walmart exclusive lines remain exclusive to those lines for a while. And so we didn't see a VW Bumblebee for a couple of years after his Netflix packaging released, and we've seen that mold reused this year in the Creatures Collide pack as Goldbug. So it seems like maybe there's about a 2-year exclusivity period. So don't know quite what's going to happen with old Cosmos, whether they can use the mold again or if people will have to wait a while for it.
Maybe the next multi pack will just be VW Bumblebee, Netflix Soundwave, and Cosmos.
Just put all the rare things put all the rare things into one packet at once and just sell it as cheap as possible.
And then we can have this $100 pack shell forming everywhere. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, like that. That's probably what's going to happen.
But I feel like the scarcity, the demand for Cosmos may also be driven by that a little bit. By the experiences on Netflix figures. Like, I recall skipping the Netflix waves entirely. I just wasn't aware. Just thinking, I'll pick them up down the track. It's a retail figure, and they've since absolutely skyrocketed. And I've sort of resigned myself to the fact that I'm not getting them unless they get a re-release. And I imagine there's a lot of people in a similar boat who've gone, right, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Grab them now.
I think there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of angst that goes around about acquiring these figures, and part of it, I think, is based on the fact that things like the Netflix line came in limited numbers and they went. And that is like anecdotally what we're seeing with the Velocitron line is they come in, they come in, word gets out that they're at a Kmart store, and then you go back the next day and they're all gone. Like, even that is almost unheard of. Like, most Kmart stores are still trying to get rid of Kingdom Deluxes. To have Velocitron things come in and sell out within a day is pretty astonishing. Now, whether they're being purchased by people who are buying them to flip, I don't know. I think that we tend to sort of regard the scalper in inverted quotes as a bit of a boogeyman, and the scalper is the person that we can blame for buying things that we just simply weren't able to find in stores. I think we as collectors don't recognize behavior that we do when others do it. Like, we will walk into a store and we'll go, oh my God, guys, I've found Velocitron. Who wants me to pick them up? A Cosmos or a Burnout or a Scourge? And five of our friends will be just like, oh, can you grab me one while you're there? And so you pick up a pile of Transformers and you head to the checkout, and you're happy because you've bought all of these things for all of your friends. The next collector will walk past you and just go, oh my God, he's a scalper. I think the simple fact is that there's a lot of people and there's a lot of demand for these figures. And also
children still buy these things. Parents buy these for their kids. It's not like when I went in and got mine.
Right. Let's just bring up the Scourge box there. There's an 8+ on the Scourge box, right? Like, this is a toy that's designed for 8-year-olds and above.
Yeah, and like I'm in Armidale at the moment, which is a reasonably small town. It's not tiny, but it's smallish.
How many traffic lights are there?
2.
You just looked out the window because you can see the whole town.
No, I was just pretty much. No, I just had to think for a sec. But yeah, there's 2 traffic lights in town on the same street.
Yeah, fair enough too. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I went through Gutter Guy a couple of months ago. It's much the same.
Yeah, like as an example, right? The only place you can buy any of this stuff in town is Kmart. Yeah, I've checked. So, and Kmart
Max has gone door to door down Main Street. Have you got any Transformers for a very?
I've got a little flyer of Cosmos I've been putting around all the power plants.
Wanted dead or alive.
But by the time
just put up the X-Files I want to believe poster with Cosmos on it.
But I was sort of going into Kmart once they started hitting shelves after work and just saying, where are they? And they put out a stock 4-pack, like 4 of the Scourges, and because they had all this Kingdom Deluxes shell forming, they didn't put out any of the Deluxes, didn't put out any of the Voyagers. And by the time those came out, which was late last week, the Scourges had all sold out, and I don't think, I don't think there's 4 collectors in town to buy Scourges, because I just haven't seen anyone. You tend to get a finger on the pulse of these things, and I just haven't. I've looked on Gumtree and stuff. It just doesn't seem to be people in town who collect this stuff. Like, obviously there would be people, but I don't think that there's a massive demand. Everyone's going to quickly run in and grab the Scourges from the one Kmart in town. Parents are buying things for their kids.
Yeah, so they're really good. Like, they're good things to buy for kids for Christmas presents. But the other thing to remember though is that the way that Kmart's website works is that your stock comes from your nearest store. So there might not be people in Armidale, but there might be people in nearby towns who, when they order Scourge online, it comes from that store, and so it depletes that store's stock.
Oh, yeah, true. But I guess the other thing is, like, by the time the Deluxes and the Voyagers came in, I got a Cosmos and Clampdown because they were left. But, I think it was otherwise. It was just, like, it was a couple of blurs, and that was it. Like, Road Rocket, Burnout.
I haven't actually opened my blur yet.
Whatever the other one was, they were completely gone.
Yeah. So I've opened Cosmos, I've opened Clampdown, I haven't opened Blur yet. Those are the only figures that I'm keeping for myself from this line. I may get an Override, and I may get a Scourge later. EB Games put up Scourge, which we should talk about the price point for Scourge. EB Games put Scourge up for $60, and people are, that's a crazy price point. Like, leaders are $90+. EB did very quickly correct that price to $110, but they do seem to be honouring their original price for pre-orders if you paid it in full. And I think if you go into the store and you have a bit of an argument with them on pickup, you'll probably get it for $60. However, Kmart then surprised everyone by putting Scourge, the leader, out for $79, which is the cheapest leader class figure that we've had in years. So yeah, like the Kmart's pricing is very interesting for these guys. Like I said, the deluxe price point has moved up by $5. Voyagers still holding steady at 50, although I think they've gone up to 55 for some of the other lines. And the leader class Scourge, which he's a retool of the Earthrise and Kingdom Prime. Plus, a few things to damage were needle nose truck cab and the trailer. But that's how they've done leaders for a while. He's like a Voyager style figure with extra bits. $79, really good price for him. So it just goes to show that if you price these things well, they move.
Yeah, and considering that the sort of quote unquote premium leaders over the past few years, stuff in Gen Selected and the exclusive lines have been pushed. They've pushed $100 at the retailers that they've shown up at. This is really the first one that I think has shown up at mass retail, and it's substantially cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. So, having been in touch with Hasbro about Cosmos, I do have to say that the news is not great. So the line is exclusive to Kmart here, and Kmart ordered their stock ages ago, and their stock was allocated and it shipped. And so, at least the last time I spoke with Hasbro about this, they said we can't just bring Cosmos into the country and sell him through EB Games or Amazon, because Kmart does have exclusivity on the line. So there will have to be something else that happens, or they'll have to restock the line somewhere down the way. Whether they can persuade Kmart to take solid crates of Cosmos, which will then probably shell form, knowing how the community gets a little bit fickle about this stuff, or if maybe they can update a case assortment to send half Cosmos and then a Clampdown and a couple of the other figures or something like that. But it's a little bit thorny when it comes to getting Cosmos in Australia at the moment. If you can locate one from overseas, you might want to get that import. But I will also say that people are still finding them at Kmart stores. Kmart stores are restocking as well. So, like you said, this wave has disappeared out of Kmart stores really fast. It comes in and it goes, and we have seen stores in Sydney, and I think there was one that was reported in WA that they got a second helping of the stock in and out. Went out just as quickly, but they are restocking.
Yeah, and the important thing to note as well is that Kmart's online stock tracker for stores, it does not work.
Just ignore it.
It's not going to help you. It told, for instance, it told me that they were sold out, and I got mine. And yeah, you're right, they are restocking. or I went, Scourge was sitting there for a week, nothing had happened, and then a week later they decided to put out the deluxes.
Yeah.
So they're cycling through things. Each store is going to do stuff differently. So
yeah, it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, the stock is still placed out there by humans, and if a human looks at the shelf and just goes, "I can't fit that on there," then they might put it back out the back. People have had some luck actually asking the staff if they have particular characters and stuff out the back, and they'll get them. So that happens. You did mention the stock tracker, and I just want to talk about. Mark says I got caught out by that tracker with Motormaster as well. Kmart's stock tracker. Many people have spent many hours trying to figure out how it might work, or how it works, or what it is, if it's on a delay, or if it's predictive, or if it means that stock's in the back but not in the store, or anything like that. Ultimately, it's not reliable. It doesn't really matter why it's not reliable. You may as well just go into the store and check for the product that you want, and if you can't find it, just ask. But do remember, be polite. It's not the staff's fault that this is rare, and it's not the staff's fault that the stock tracker doesn't work. And of course, you should always be polite and kind when you're dealing with retail staff, because the shit that they see is pretty astonishing sometimes.
Once in a while, we'll even see a Cosmos.
Yes, okay. Occasionally, you'll see a Cosmos. It actually makes me really happy that I picked up my Cosmos in Singapore and took him to the UK to TFNation, where Velocitron was also sold in that dealer room, and yes, Cosmos disappeared first in that dealer room as well. So the rest of the line was around, but no one could find a Cosmos. However, the interesting thing about Cosmos is that they all appear to be sitting on Smith's store shelves somewhere across the UK. There are stores that have 20 of the things. So if you've got family in the UK, find out the postcode where they live, plug it into the Smith's stock locator, which does appear to be accurate, unlike Kmart. Plug it into the Smith's stock locator and just ask them if they can go pick one up for you, and then work out how to get it here. It's going to be a much less hassle if you go and do that way. Take advantage of family, friends. I mean, you could also just blunder into a Facebook group for Transformers in the UK and ask people, and throw yourself upon some people's mercies and see what they might do. Anyway, that's the depressing state of Velocitron in Australia. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of help that we can offer, but as I said, I am importing a bunch for TCCA members. So if you're interested in a Cosmos, you can talk to me, but they are a bit more expensive, having come in from the UK. So yeah. Before we get onto the rush for the rest of the news, because we actually are at an hour already, the overseas release of note this week is the final premium finish figure, the Studio Series Premium Finish 05 Optimus Prime, and I can't remember which version of Optimus Prime it is. I think it's one from either Revenge of the Fallen or Dark of the Moon.
No idea.
No, I don't know either. The Premium Finish movie bots have been quite well received. The Premium Finish War for Cybertron bots perhaps a little bit less so, depending on the actual release. But I think the Premium Finish line has probably run its course. I think Takara's kind of gotten diminishing returns from it. I don't think they actually had a parallel War for Cybertron 05 for this one. So I'm just sort of snuck onto the end.
Yeah, so I checked, and it's the original Voyager Prime from Studio Series. Interestingly, not the sort of beefed up retool.
I thought that was the.
Oh, it is beefed up.
I thought that was one of the earlier Studio Series releases. I thought this SSO5 was one of the later movies.
Maybe I'm just misremembering which one's which, because it does look to have that sort of flat chest.
Let's very quickly go to the Google and see what we can see. Premium Finish SSO5 is Revenge of the Fallen Optimus Prime. So not the original one from the 2007 movie, but from the 2009 movie. So yeah, fair enough.
Well, yeah, it's SSO5, which is that's. I think that's Yeah, so that's Wave 1. So it's not, it's the original Revenge of a Fallen Prime from Wave 1 of Studio Series. Just, but
Yeah,
not,
that's
because
right.
they did that Redux version later on.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been Optimus Prime figures. Every 10 Studio Series releases, there's an Optimus Prime. In fact, I think it's
I
been a
haven't
while
been
since there
keeping
was
track.
one, but yeah. No, no, look at that. Um, you know what? We've got a bunch of news stories to talk about, but given that we've spent a while talking about the state of retail in Australia and sort of talking a little bit about stuff from TFNation, I'm not going to go through most of the news stories. I do want to. I do want to speak to one specifically, because we've been off the air for so long. People would have been getting the news from other locations, but one of the things that I did want to speak to specifically is this one that's come out this week. It's the black version of the Perceptor mold, which the Perceptor mold from Studio Series 86 has been extremely well received. It's a really, really nice figure. He's got a little bit of an unusual tilt on his legs, the way that they fold around there, but that's also still cool. And where Perceptor goes, Magnificus seems to follow. And so we started hearing some rumors a couple of weeks ago that there was a black version of the Perceptor mold out there for sale from some unscrupulous sellers, and this appears to be an unscrupulous buyer who has purchased him and set him up for some pretty photos. Bittic appears to be the person who runs this, and I cannot look at these photos without reading the word bitch over it as a watermark. So yeah, he does of course have the same alt mode, the microscope, and of course the somewhat serviceable tank mode, which also featured as an Easter egg for the original figure. Now, it's not entirely clear where this guy is going to be released. The Shattered Glass line this year has been doing double duty as Shattered Glass and also sort of as a surrogate for Gen Selects figures. So where we've got in fact, Shattered Glass Blaster is very straightforward, but the Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus also doubles as Delta Magnus, and they give you a head in the box. If you don't want him to have the zombie head that the Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus has, you can put a standard Ultra Magnus head on him and just display him as Delta Magnus. There is Slicer, who's not a Shattered Glass figure, but he is a retool and recolor of Wheeljack, and so rather than making him another character in sort of the Prime universe, they've shunted him over to Shattered Glass and gone, oh, that's Slicer. Done the same thing with Flame War. And I don't... so there's meant to be 5 Shattered Glass releases this year. The 5th one is very heavily rumoured to be Soundwave, and it's apparently also going to be the Netflix Soundwave mold for being reused for the first time, which means Magnificus is probably not going to be in the Shattered Glass line.
Well, notably, he has a purple insignia, whereas even though Flame War and Slicer aren't technically Shattered Glass characters, they still have that red insignia from Shattered Glass.
Yes,
and it's kind of just like suspend your disbelief a bit.
Yeah.
Whereas,
so he's
treating
definitely
that
not
as
a
a
Shattered
role,
Glass figure.
yeah.
So it seems very likely that he's probably a Gen Select. There is one, and then people will lose their minds if this is the case. There is one more buzzworthy Bumblebee release that's on the cards for later this year. Now, those figures do not come to Australia. We've had Origin Bumblebee, Autobot Silverstreak, Toy Deco Pterosaur, and Toy Deco Dinobot, and the Creatures Collide pack this year. That line has not come to Australia. So if this guy is in fact the last Buzzworthy Deluxe, you are going to want to contact your friends overseas to purchase this on import. There's a lot of toy stores in Singapore and Hong Kong will take your order and ship the items to you at a good rate.
He is Magnificus is a very Gen Selects feeling kind of deco. Gen Select has typically been a lot of Diaclone stuff, a lot of things that have been repaints in the past and that have been beloved repaints, but aren't really major characters. So, yeah, I could still fit in quite neatly.
I could see Magnificus being a 2023 Gen Selects release. Like if he's coming out of the factory now in September, October, November, December, maybe is a January or February release. So like he might, he may slip out somewhere sooner. We'll see. Either way, very very much looking forward to seeing him. I've got the original e-hobby, the G1 Magnificus, up in my e-hobby shelf, and he's in fact, I just realised, is stood next to the Generations Magnificus as well, the thrilling 30 Perceptor redo. So getting a third Magnificus for that shelf will be definitely welcome. So Gen Selects Magnificus is out there. That's probably about the only bit of news that's really sort of from this week that I want to talk about, given the time constraints that we have. Do you want to move on to talk about acquisitions?
Sure.
I have a bunch of acquisitions from TFNation, so like I'm not gonna go first on this.
You're not gonna go first?
No, I'm not. You can go first. I'm gonna line up my acquisitions and we'll go through them.
I probably won't take too long, just because since I've moved to New South Wales since I did the last show, so most of the stuff I've bought isn't actually here. I guess the big thing, what the big thing was when it came out, I'm not sure if you picked them up, but Commander Motormaster.
Yes,
so one of those?
I do have a Commander Motormaster, but I haven't opened him yet. Because you can't make Menasor until you can't make Menasor properly until Wave 4 comes out, and it looks like Wave 4 is going to be early next year at this point. So
that's what I'm loving about it, is like it's given me time to appreciate them, because I made Menasor just for novelty of it, to see how everything works when I first got Motormaster, and since I haven't touched that, and I don't want to touch that because I want to be able to appreciate that Motormaster for what it is, because completely divorced from Menasor, just in and of itself, it's phenomenal. Like, it's an all-timer. There are a couple of little issues where it's like, for being a Commander scale figure, something that's more divorced from regular price point. There's a couple of articulation hindrances which I really feel like shouldn't be there.
I know a lot of people would have liked the ability to put the Stunticons on the front of the legs instead of the back, and so
that's another big thing.
Yeah, but I think it wasn't the design that they went with, and like you can probably find some upgrade kits that allow you to do that if you want it. But ultimately, if the Menasor design that they've gone with is not to your likings, there's plenty of options around these days.
Yeah, and I kind of have to respect what they went with for the Combiner, in terms of just a very clear artistic intent of, this is what we're doing, and we're going to go hard on it. And it's, I attached Drag Strip and, set up the Combiner in and of itself, and it feels phenomenal. It works better than any previous Combiner by a country mile. It's, utterly fantastic. But you combine that with Motormaster in and of himself, who's just, he's just classic G1 Motormaster, essentially, but updated just enough that he feels a bit special in his own right. Really solid build quality, beautiful paint. But for me, the whole thing is the transformation is just absolutely sublime.
Yeah, I do need to crack him over and try it.
Like the entire alt mode essentially just panel wraps up into his lower legs, and it's just, panel formers. I feel like there's a difference between a panel former and a shell former. Because a shell former, I feel like, is something where you have these big bits dangling off, and it is a literal shell. Whereas a panel former is something that it's not moving in chunks, it's panels moving around a mass and realigning themselves. And Motormaster is very much that, but it's a really satisfying process. Everything just locks in, and locks in super solidly, and it's just satisfying to do.
Yeah.
So I think about what else is there. Picked up 3A Blitzwing from Bumblebee. I'm gonna try run through things a bit quick.
Try to ramble coherently.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, 3A Blitzwing from the deluxe scale figure from Bumblebee. That is fantastic. It's a nice little addition to that growing cast of characters in that movie. I don't know if you have. A lot of people have skipped those because they're a lot of money and they're non-transforming. But in terms of just really, really nice figures that represent those characters, it's a beautiful line, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's a gorgeous design.
you are right. A lot of people have skipped them. It's not it's not so it's not that I don't appreciate them. I just don't really have a place for that sort of slightly larger, hyper detailed thing in my collection. But they are really nice. I have seen them, and they are really nice and detailed. They move nicely and they pose really nicely. I can definitely get it.
No, yeah, for me, the place for that in my collection is the cast of that movie specifically, and that's it. It's forms a really nice, tight little display. Because I also picked up the trying to think of the third party name now, Bingo Toys Wave Man, which is the Shockwave from that movie.
Yes, in fact, is that a new company, Bingo Toys?
Yeah, so it's their first release. Technically they wanted to make it so that it fits in with the 3A figures, but transforms. Except it barely transforms. It's sort of smudges it, so it makes there's a few like really convoluted movements into the shape of a gun. It's not really coherent or intuitive at all, and the alt mode is terrible. It looks doesn't look like anything. So, but if you just ignore that entirely, you're left with a figure that's essentially on par with the 3A releases. That's cool. Like, yeah, it's the same level of detail, same level of posability, and about half the price as well. So,
and I don't think 3A's done Shockwave, have they? So yeah,
no.
A lot of people are very fond of the Shockwave design from the Bumblebee movie, and there's also a lot of people who are a little bit disappointed that the only official version of him is a tiny core class release as well.
I have to imagine we'll be getting another one at some point.
But I think so too. However, I do think that it's pretty surprising that Hasbro chose to follow that up with another core release for Shockwave in the Legacy line. So, don't know.
It's a running thing with him, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But yeah, if you do, I guess if you're looking for a representation of Shockwave from that movie, Waveman is still very much available from all usual third-party sellers. And excellent. If you ignore it as a transformer and just have it as a surrogate for something that fits in the 3A line, it fits in perfectly.
Now, if I do like that, I need to buy more 3A figures, is what you're saying.
You do. Except you can have one thing that barely transforms and a bunch of others which don't transform and cost twice as much money. So, and I guess the other thing which I don't have with me is, and it's something I won't spend too much time on because it's hard to describe without showing you a product page. But there's every once in a while I like to just go on AliExpress and find some knockoff, like a decent knockoff.
This is like dumpster diving for AliExpress.
Yeah, but like not the super high quality knockoffs, but not the cheap knockoffs either. Like those middle of a range ones, which are like slight improvements. So I'd heard good things about the Siege Prime mold, and then also having watched the Kingdom series, which was, it had some qualities. The one thing that I did really enjoy about that, and I think a lot of people seem to enjoy, was the take on Nemesis Prime there. And the toy for that version of Nemesis Prime was an exclusive that goes for a lot of money. And also comes with a whole bunch of trailer bits that no one really cares about. And so instead, I went on AliExpress and picked up the oversized knockoff of that Voyager, which cost about $40 shipped and is the size of, I think, it's about the size of like Unique Toys Perukil, like 3, or is the thing I've got sitting next to. It's about 3/4 the size of Siege Jetfire, I should say. And it's this exact same mold, but sort of add bit nicer paint with some glossy metallics and stuff. A bit of die cast, added ratchet joints, and then a couple of little alterations to the transformation to clean up the kibble a bit. So, there isn't really much to say about it. It's just Siege Prime, but bigger with some improvements. But if you're looking for a representation of that take on Nemesis Prime, it's it's a very, very cheap and easy option. And cool. It's a nice solid figure in hand. I guess the only things I actually have with me, I don't know if you want to talk about these at the same time, but
why not?
Cosmos and Clampdown.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, like, so we've
both sort of already touched on him
down here. So yeah, I love Cosmos. He's a fantastic little tubby UFO, and Clampdown, like I said, I really love the Lamborghini mold. Yeah.
I put a post up on the Facebook group the other day. I sort of described it as it's just a quintessential deluxe. Like, it kind of just feels like what immediately comes to mind when you think of a deluxe class, and that's not a bad thing whatsoever. It's not doing anything particularly remarkably well. It just is good at what it does. It's not trying to be anything else. It's just
I would actually argue that it actually does a lot of things remarkably well, because people keep buying that mold when they reuse it. Like, it is really intuitive to transform. It's really easy and it's really simple. And even I can transform that without looking at instructions. And I'm a serial instructioner.
Yeah, one thing with transformation, I think I was trying to figure out what I liked so much about it, because it is very simple, and it's not doing any sort of fancy tricks which usually entice you in. But I think the thing I realized that really strikes me about it is that every motion, often you need to have a point of leverage when you're moving something. Right, so if I've got Cosmos here, if I want to shift the shoulders, I've got to grab at the torso and shift the shoulders up.
Yeah.
Right, like, you need a point of leverage for a lot of motions. This mold doesn't need a leverage point for anything, if that makes sense. So everything you do is just like, it's a natural flow. Like, you just push things and they move in one direction.
Anything?
Yeah, they just move in one direction only, and then you're done. And you don't need a push, pull. It's hard to describe on a point of leverage, but it's just sort of like, it's something you can transform by just like flicking it with one finger. Like, you just do that, right? Does that make sense? You have to do very little to make it work for you.
It does, and that's why I think the transformation of it is actually really intuitive. It's a fantastic and really fun design, and it was actually one of my favorite toys of, I think, 2020 was the Gigawatt repaint as well, because it really lends itself to being reused in multiple ways for different characters.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous, and then the paint job on Clampdown as well, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. The paint job has been a little bit controversial because his color scheme has changed a little bit from what we know as his masterpiece color scheme, but they sort of used some of those colors for Red Alert, so it's fair enough. But I think the new color scheme actually complements really well.
Well, I think they've explicitly stated they want it to be more distinguishable from Red Alert.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They swapped it out to be a bit sort of, it's grey and white instead of red and white, which isn't quite as exciting, but it does make him feel a bit more like his own thing.
No, I think it's fine. Yeah. Right.
Take us away.
I'm gonna do a thing here. Now I've got my phone, and I'm holding my phone on the desk, and I've got it pointed at something. I'm gonna bring my phone in as an extra camera. Look at this, incredibly technical. Now, how well can you see this figure here that's in front of us? It's a little blurry, but I'm getting the gist of it. Yeah. So this is a new Transformers animated figure that has not been seen before. He is a custom made animated smokescreen. He's based on the Prowl mold. Now, this has been made by Nathan Luke, and our Facebook group. He showed us a custom that he did a few years ago. It was one of his first customs on the original Prowl mold, and I just went like, how much to do it again. So yeah, he certainly did do it again. It's absolutely wonderful. Really, really happy with the results, and really happy to add another custom to my shelf. I've got a few customs incoming this month. I am realizing that I probably should have put the phone on a tripod, but that's okay. We'll move him out of the way and put something else in the spotlight there. We do have Shattered Glass Blaster, who's probably going to fall over when I stop looking over there. So Shattered Glass Blaster, also very happy with him. He's got a very subtle color design. A lot of people sort of look at it and just go, oh, it's just sort of, it's grey and black, but there's sort of a lot of darker purples in there.
Is that purple as glossy in person as it looks on the camera?
Yeah. Do you mean around on the legs and stuff?
Like on the thighs and the around the elbows? Yeah.
It's not terribly glossy, but it's not terribly glossy.
But
nice. There's a nice amount of paint on this figure, and it's I say that I'm not entirely sure whether it's actually that painted or not. I don't think Blaster himself was that painted, but I think the color choices are really good on this figure. And like Shattered Glass Blaster has a fairly established color palette as well, so the fact that they've managed to make it a little bit exciting and different is notable. And the other thing that is also pretty cool is his cassette. I think Eject came with the Kingdom one, so this that makes this one Rewind. So he's like I said, the Shattered Glass line's sort of done double duty this year. So this is the Rewind if you want him.
Have we had a regular Rewind?
Nice. No, we've had the blue Eject that came with Blaster.
I assume might get in with a twin cast at some point.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible we'll see that, and at that point, I would expect the Rewind that we get in the regular line to just sort of be a smoky, translucent black, because that would be more in line with Rewind's colors. Yeah. What else have we got here? I mentioned that I was going to talk about pins. So let's talk a little bit about pins. There's a couple of pins to talk about here. First of all, I did mention Gavin Spence makes pins. So Gavin made a Cosmos pin this year at TFNation, and basically you purchase the pin and the proceeds go to charity. So it's fantastic. In years gone by, he's made Dinobots, he's made Sharkticons and the like. Very, very happy to have this pin. Really enjoy Gavin's work. That's not the only pin that I came back from TFNation with. This one's also quite interesting, and it's also quite shiny. Wow. So it's perhaps a little bit difficult to make out. If I sort of sit my phone down like that, you might get a that looks like a nicer look at it. Now this pin I picked up at TFNation, and there's three familiar logos on there, or there's three logos on there. One of them is less familiar than the others. So obviously you got the Autobot and the Decepticon faction symbol. Now, do you know what the logo at the top is? Because most people do not.
I pretend to.
It looks a little bit familiar for people, but most people don't get it. It is actually the logo for Industrial Light and Magic. Now, this pin, which fetched a fairly pretty penny, it cost a fairly pretty penny at TFN. This pin is a staff pin from Industrial Light and Magic, and it was given to staff who worked on the 2007 movie, which is itself going through its anniversary. And so, according to the people that I purchased this from, this pin is one of either 12 or 15 known to exist, which... At that point, I was just like, yeah, of course, I'm going to abide by my rule. My rule is that if I see a Transformers pin, I buy it. And so knowing that it's also a nice piece of Transformers history, also just added to the desirability for me. So I forked out a fairly pretty penny for that one. Moving on from that, last pin stuff, and I do have to send a special thank you to someone for this. as I knock over figures here. Now, you'll be maybe familiar with this pin set that I was gifted on my birthday. It probably helps if I take the top off the box as well. So this Decepticon pin set from I think around 2001. I was given this as a birthday present, and I had seen this set on eBay, and I had decided not to get it because it was not quite the enamel pin style that I generally go for. However, once I had the Decepticon set, I then had to get the Autobot set. That's a little bit more difficult. As I sort of did a bit of research into the pins, I determined that the sets were one of 500 that were ever produced in Japan in about 2001. Good luck finding the rest. And as it turns out, had an incredibly generous gift from Justin Massaru, who is in TCCA and was the artist behind a lot of our collector cards, except for the last couple of years. So there's a good chance that TCCA members have some of Justin's artwork in their hands and in their collection. And I put a message out to people the other day and said, look, I'm really looking for the Autobot set. And Justin just said, look, I've got the Autobot set and I've been looking for the Decepticon set, and I've given up looking for the Decepticon set, so you can have the Autobot set. So very very generous gift arrived from Justin today. So there's the Autobot set, which I could not find photos of the Autobot set online. So the Autobot set, we've got Prime, Ironhide, Bumblebee, and Mirage in there. And so very humbled, very happy to have this in my pin collection now, and very grateful to Justin for just the massive generosity in gifting me this set. So yeah, I'm quite humbled.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, so as I said, my rule with Transformers pins is that I have to have them. So I've managed to acquire this fairly difficult to find set. I'm very happy about it.
Well, in bloody good condition too. Like those boxes barely scuffed up.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the Decepticon set came from. That was actually, ironically, the Decepticon set was purchased, and I think it was in Australia somewhere. And then the Autobot set was in Melbourne with Justin. So I actually managed to find both these sets of rare Japanese pins in Australia, and even in the same city, no less. So yeah, and I've actually forgotten the other acquisitions that I was going to go through from TFNation, which are actual figures, but I haven't opened them yet either. So as you know, I like my eHobby figures. So there's an eHobby release of Crosscut, the silver skids, the silver skids repaint. I saw this on the stand at TFNation along with eHobby's release of Clampdown, since we're talking about Clampdown a bit tonight. I saw these both on the stand at TFNation at Paul Hutchins' Space Bridge stand, and I thought, I have my own sources for eHobby figures. Like, before I go and buy these here and mule them home, like, let's go and see whether I can buy them online. So I went to my usual source and I plugged in eHobby Clampdown and Crosscut. There were no results. So they are actually a little bit difficult to come across and a little bit difficult to find. So very happy to say that I've managed to acquire a couple of eHobbies. I grabbed a couple of eHobby figures last time I went to TFNation as well. So yeah, very happy to add those in. And if I move,
how classy those look just in packaging there.
Oh, they do, don't they? With the G1 box revisions and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a G1 box, but just a bit nicer.
That's true.
Yeah.
And this is
something about it.
There's quite a mess moving things around the desk here as well, and I'll just move this into place as well. There's the MMC Optus Promenon severed Geist. And you will notice also that there's a signature on there as well, which the artist was the artist who created the box art was at TFNation, so I did manage to get him to sign it for me. It was very nice of him. So yeah, I will open this bad boy up at some point and see how we go. But that is going to be it for acquisitions. I think I've gone on for quite long enough now. And I think we should probably bring things to a bit of a close. We are sort of now sitting at about 1.5 hours, and I know Brad doesn't really like editing the shows once they get a little bit over an hour. So let's wind things up. Little bit of TCA Club news. We are very late with the membership offering for this year. It is ready to roll out, and we're hoping to put some stuff up probably tomorrow, and we're going to have a big member drive for the month of September. I would like to get as many members as we can to sign up or renew during the month of September. We will put up details of this. We will be offering some giveaway figures. So if you do sign up for TCCA membership, you will go into the draw at the end of the month. The figures on offer are Origin Bumblebee, Kingdom Red Alert, and a Velocitron Cosmos. And so just by signing up for TCCA membership, you'll be in the draw for that. If we get to, I can't remember if I decided it was 100 or 150 figures, we also have a mint and sealed box Combiner Wars Devastator that will be added into the prize pool. And so if your name is drawn, you will be able to choose the prize that you want from the prize pool. And if we get to 200 members in 1 month, a couple of things will happen. One is that Simon will have a heart attack having to mail out 200 member packs in a month. This is something that took us about 8 to 10 months last year to get 200 members. So if we get 200 members in 1 month, Simon's going to have not a fun time. However, the member packs are a little bit simpler this year, so it won't be too bad for him. But also, if we get 200 members in 1 month, I will be adding an Earthrise Seeker, Ramjet, and Dirge 2-pack into the prize pool. So, bit of an incentive. There's a few things.
Several
in there
incentives.
That people have, yeah, there's a few things in there that people have been after for a really long time, and those Seekers have been sitting on the shelf here, waiting to be earmarked for a TCCA fundraiser for a long time. So. We're going to finally pull the trigger on that, and hope that we can use that to drive up membership for the year. And that will be it. So expect to see those announcements come out over the course of the weekend, and you will have until the end of September to you will have until the end of September to do that. That'll be it for the show, and thank you everyone for watching along. Thank you for listening to us blither on about the movie that never was, and talking about Cosmos and distribution and things like that. And we will try to be back next week. the chances are not good as we've been going, but we are going to try to make a bit of an effort to get more regular appearances, which might mean shaking things up a little bit in the hosting chairs, but we'll see how we go. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And that's it. There's a whole spiel that I need to go through. I need to scroll down to the next page of the sheet.
Spiel away.
Thank you. You can find out more about the stories that we didn't really cover, but regular stories is covered in the run sheet. Now, we are a registered club in Victoria. We're run by volunteers donating their time, effort, energy, money, and Friday nights to make collecting in Australia better for everyone. We want to build the Australian Transformers collecting community by engaging fans around the country, making content like this podcast, attending live in-person events like Oz Comic Con. That's right. There are 2 Oz Comic Con shows coming up in September. There is Brisbane and there is Sydney. We're putting a team together for Brisbane, and I will be at Sydney with a team as well. And the Sydney, if you come along to Oz Comic Con Sydney, you don't want to miss it. Not for our stand, but there's going to be some Transformers stuff there that's going to be pretty cool. and it's not going to be us. So like, there's going to be 2 Transformers installations that you can go and see at Oz Comic Con Sydney. I can't say much more than that. So yeah, you will see us at Oz Comic Con in 2 states this month. Anyway, you can find out more about benefits of TCCA membership in the Facebook group during the week, and you can find out how to show support for what we do at transformerscca.com. That is it for us, and we will be back with more Transformers news in the fullness of time. And I've said this on the solo screen layout. I should have had us up like that. Anything?
I tend to shut down at this point anyway.
Yeah. Anything to add before we go, Max? So speak now or forever hold your peace.
I don't know.
Until the next.
Feel free to harass us so we, actually get another episode out.
Yes, please do. Please do harass us. Yeah.
Sometimes you need someone cracking the whip.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting live. And thank you for listening to the podcast if you are listening on a download as well. Much appreciated. And we will see you again soon.